chair this session, we would like to call on Mr. Higu Theart, or like I personally call him, Higu the Art. Hy is die uitvoerende hoof, waarnemende uitvoerende hoof van Kunste Onbeperk. Baie dankie.
Wel, ek hoef nie, ek het mos 'n mikrofoon hier, so ek hoef nie eintlik by die mikrofoon te staan nie, né? Mense vergeet. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I think Mushfika asked me to be chair so that I don't talk a lot, and just, yeah, I can talk a lot, so I'm not going to. We are going to talk about localize the events supply chain. And I think what this event is a very, very, very good example of, someone, our MC is from around here. It's in this hotel. It's, the technical support is from around here. So they also keep to their promises as Western Cape government to also support the region. I've got some special, a special panel, and I'm standing right in front of them, but I'm going to introduce them one by one so that they can introduce themselves a little bit. I think I'm going to start with Linda Marks. Linda works at Kunste Onbeperk, the company that presents the Klein Karoo National Arts Festival, and Linda has been with the company for 18 years. So I think she's very knowledgeable about everything, and I must say that Linda, we work together closely, and she's more than just a great support. She's the backbone of our organization. And but Linda has basically, and I don't know if Linda might give the background, but Linda she has basically worked in every single department of our festival and so she really knows like the nitty-gritty, from sponsorships to the front of house systems to I almost want to say catering, literally every department. So please welcome Linda Marks.
Is the presentation on? I'm going to stand here because I feel a little safer here. So as Higu said, I'm the General Manager of Kunste Onbeperk. Kunste Onbeperk exists to, I don't have the clicker. Oh, sorry, it's here. I apologize. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. So Kunste Onbeperk exists to promote, encourage, and preserve the arts mostly, but not exclusively in Afrikaans. I've been with the company, as Higu said, for 18 years. Before that, I actually managed a nightclub, believe it or not. So my background is in the entertainment industry, and my role at the organization over the years has been mostly in arts programming, social responsibility, and arts development, and very much in an administrative role. So Kunste Onbeperk annually produces the Klein Karoo National Arts Festival, which we call the KKNK. It was actually lovely to hear so many people refer to the festival during the course of the day. We also present a small classical musical festival, a niche festival for classical music called Klein Karoo Klassiek. And then we present Textmark. So Textmark is a platform that enables writers to try out their texts in front of industry role players or stakeholders. And our Textmark project actually won a Fleur de Cap Award for innovation in 2018. So this year, we are presenting the 25th edition of the Klein Karoo National Arts Festival from the 21st to the 27th of March. The next few slides will just give you a little bit of a background of the festival. So, and now I can't see with these glasses. If I could just get that, please. Apologies. All right. So, as you can see, we are the original Afrikaans festival. We were the first Afrikaans festival to start. It was an idea that originated by someone who had gone to the Grahamstown Arts Festival and realized that there isn't something like that in Afrikaans in the country. And the idea took off also with the help of sponsors and partners, and and like I said, we're presenting the 25th edition this year. It's a relevant festival. It's a destination festival. We're very proud of the Klein Karoo and what that brings to the experience that our festival goers have. And then it's also a value for money festival, and it's also one of the jewel events of the Western Cape. So, and also very importantly, a platform for engagement. So these are just a few of the demographics of the festival to give you an idea of the language, age, racial diversity, where our festival goers come from, and the gender split of people who attend the festival. And this is from a research that was done at the 2018 festival by the University of Grahamstown, the Grahamstown University. Our audiences generally are families that come to visit. They come for a couple of days, so they sleep over for a couple of days. And approximately 70% of the people who attend the festival actually buy tickets to shows as well, because we have a lot of content that people can attend for free as well. The socio-economic impact of the festival alone, so that's not any of Kunste Park's other projects, it's just the KKNK. In the Oudtshoorn municipal area is 56 million rand. This is also research done by the university. And then in the Western Cape province, between 161 and 178 million rand. Something we're also quite proud of is basically our social media following is the highest of all the, or at least of the 6 top Afrikaans festivals, which also gives us great access to our festival goers, to our clients. And then our platforms that we have, obviously, it's theatre, it's music programming, we have talks and a discourse series, we have a visual arts component, we have quite a large outdoor music component as well. Yeah, just a few photographs of the festival. Just as a matter of interest, who has not been to the KAKNK? Not been? Shame on you. Please come this year, you'd enjoy it. So there you go. There's just a couple of photographs of that. And then just on the subject that we were asked to talk about today is about localizing the event supply chain. So we were given a couple of questions, and I'll just give a couple of points on each of them, and then when Hichu gets to the questions, we'll see what he asks. So how do you incorporate local service providers into your event or business? So for us, when we refer, obviously, to a local service provider, we refer to people who come from Oudtshoorn. So Oudtshoorn, as you know, is a tiny little town. So bear that in mind. So in order to find local service providers in a town that size is also something that one takes into consideration. But smaller items, we always purchase locally, as long as the price makes sense, because at the end of the day, our budgets also have to make sense. Our financial policy dictates that purchases over a certain amount, we need to get 3 quotations for, and at least one of them needs to be local. And decisions are ultimately based on budget and ability, but in the same breath, if there is a choice between a local, a provincial, or a national supplier, and the budget and the ability is right, we will always choose the local supplier. And then we have suppliers who are contracted on a 3-year basis as well. When we appoint those suppliers, there's a tender process always, and then the same principles apply. There needs to be at least one local supplier as part of that, and budget and ability at the end of the day will dictate who gets selected. Because at the core of our events is the arts, our service providers also include visual and performing arts. And where these are concerned, because our festival is a national festival, we have more suppliers or service providers or performers from national than we do from local, but it is something that we always take into consideration and see how we can bring into what we do. So the percentage of local service providers in our space, as I described earlier, because we're in the arts, obviously, and it's on a national platform, the majority of our performers and artists will be national because that is what people are coming to see. But when it comes to the company's operations, at least 70% of our suppliers or service providers are local. And it's the same principle in everything that we do. As long as the ability and the skill matches what we need to be done, the local supplier will always get that contract. How do we as organizers increase that percentage? So 2 of Kunst Onbeperkt's organizational values are integrity and accessibility. So these values are at the core of everything we do and how we do it. So to start off with, the commitment to promoting accessibility is there, and it's important to us. In everything that we do, we look for local participation, as well as looking at which opportunities we can source locally. And if we cannot source locally, we also take time and make effort to try and figure out how we can, or what we can put in place to eventually be able to source those services locally. So even in discussions with our sponsors, the lady from Playmakers was here earlier, who APSA is our main sponsor. So Playmakers come in as an activation team, and even when we deal with the activation teams or the sponsors, we always try to push our local suppliers. It's very important to us, so that the festival's reach is a bit further than just what we can employ them to do or contract them to do. It's also very important for us that our local community feels part of and values what we do, because engaging local suppliers and communities in general is indispensable when it comes to developing a sense of ownership, because they need to know and value and believe in what we as an organization do. And then the challenges of using local service providers, I've just listed 2 things. So basically is that, especially in a little town like Oudtshoorn, specialized skills are not always available. And the other thing would be the capacity to do the jobs. So those would be the 2 things that prevent us from appointing locally if we have the opportunity to. Thank you.
Exactly 10 minutes. When you ask Linda, it's like exactly the time limit that she gets. The next person is Mr. Kalilo, and he is from the Madelifi Makiti Fees. You've been there since, well, you've been involved for a very long time, but since 2015 you've basically been head of this festival that has had many names, apparently, or good names, hopefully. But I'm giving you the floor, and please introduce the festival to us.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. If I may, I would like to bring some diversity to this event. So, Johan, ek gaan Afrikaans praat. Die Madelifi Makiti het amptelik 2016 begin, maar hy kom, soos Hugo nou gesê het, kom eintlik van 2001 af. Dit was 'n fees geweest wat gegroei het tot en met 37,000 mense vir 4 dae. Oor sekere redes en sekere sponsors wat onttrek het, het hy geval, en ons het in 2015 het ons weer begin met 'n 3,000 mense, waar ons nou verlede jaar 7,500 mense weer kon gehad het. So ek dink dis hoekom Johan hulle gevra het dat ek deel raak van die gesprek om te sê wat het ons gemaak met sponsorships? Hoe het ons gemaak om te oorleef? Ek in 2015 het die sponsorship het onttrek 6 weke voor die fees, en die fees is dood. Ons is 'n klein dorpie, Vredendal, ek weet nie of julle weet waar Vredendal is nie, dis so 300 km in die Kaap, noord in die middel tussen Springbok en Kaapstad. En dit is 'n groot inkomste vir ons dorp, so ons kan nie toelaat dat dit gebeur nie, dis 'n bemarkingsgeleentheid vir ons omgewing. En binne 6 weke het ek besluit, maar ek sal die fees van scratch af vat, en op die einde van die dag het dit deurgaan. Maar waar begin nou? Jy bel die premier. En die premier het met Denver en Johan voorgestel, en hulle het ons gehelp, en ons het daai eerste fees in 2015 net met geld wat Denver hulle vir ons uit die departement het kon begunstig het. En dis ons grootste sponsorship finansiëel. Nou, ons gaan later 'n bietjie gesels oor hoe ons gemaak het om ander sponsorships deel te maak, maar net plaaslike mense. Ek dink hier's 'n klomp van die ouens in die saal vandag, eventsorganiseerders, wat sukkel om by jou APSA, by jou mutuals, by jou Pick n Pays, by jou Checkers uit te kom en sponsorships te kry. Maar ons vergeet van die klein ouetjie. 400 besighede in jou dorp wat elkeen R1,000 kan gee, so R400,000 sponsorship. So dis die tipe goed waarna ons kyk. Net toe terugkom na ons fees toe, is ons het die fees gedoen, dit was aanvanklik na Makwa Rittelfees, en toe huisgenoot na Makwa, en toe na Makwa, en toe het ons gegaan na Madelifi Makiti. Madelifi Makiti is 'n skool event gewees. Hulle het uitgegaan om 'n naweekprogrammetjie te hê, geld in te samel en terug te gee in die gemeenskap. 2016 het Namakwa, wat Namakwa fees was op daai stadium, en Madelifi Makiti besluit, maar kom ons gooi die goed saam, en dis waaroor ons altyd wil gaan. Ons wil ons omgewing bemark, en ons wil terugploeg in die gemeenskap. En ons het die fees saam aangebied onder Madelifi Makiti, en dit is die begin van Madelifi Makiti. 2017 moes ons 'n besluit neem van 3000 mense, toe sit so 4.500 mense. Is dit vatbaar? Ek meen, daar's 100 feeste in die Weskaap, in 'n radius van 100 km van Vredendal af, wat vir Kurt-Darren, dis Afrikaanse musiekfees, wat vir Kurt-Darren, die Campbells, op 'n sporttrein het. So wat is ons anderster as 'n ander ou wat in Piketberg sit of in Mamasbury sit? Hoekom gaan die ou 300 km ry om by ons uit te kom? En ons het besluit, ons moet 'n destination festival raak. Dis die woord wat ek weet nie wat die Afrikaans nou daarvoor is nie. En ons het 'n pragtige see, en 'n strandoord met die naam van Strandfontein by ons in die Weskus. Dis 50 km van Vredendal af. En ons het besluit, ons vat die kans en ons skuif hom soontoe. En ek dink dit was die begin van 'n nuwe era vir ons fees. Ons het vir jaar, soos ek sê, 7.500 mense gehad. Die hele dorp is uitgeboek. Die mense, almal wat daar is, ons kon werk skep, want dit is 'n vissersgemeenskap. So die vissers het nie meer kwotas nie, so daar's die werk, so ons kon onmiddellik tydelike werkskeping doen. Ek dink in ons geval, en ek dink in baie ander feeste ook, ons is geneig om vas te sit in 'n ek wil amper sê environment van dit is soos wat dit moet wees en ons moet net aangaan. En mettertyd verloor jy jou mense wat kom, want jy stagneer op dieselfde ding. En ek dink dit het ons gehelp om weer te laat groei. En ek glo ons gaan binne die volgende 2 na 3 jaar gaan ons groei. 'n Ou moet ook besluit, en dit kom terug hier na die sponsorships toe, is hoe groot wil jy raak? Want ja, in die verlede het ons 37.000 mense getrek, maar ons moes die fees aanbied met 'n 5 of 'n 6 of 'n 10 miljoen rand. Om daai mense te akkommodeer, want jy het nie al die infrastrukture nie. Maar as jy besluit, luister, my fees, en ek gaan 'n voorbeeld miskien soos die SAK's fees ook noem, my fees gaan 10.000 mense trek, so ek het net soveel geld nodig om die 10.000 mense te akkommodeer, met fasiliteite, en daaruit kan ek geld maak. En ek dink dis belangrik, jy moet nie altyd die getalle jaag hê. Hier's baie gesê vandag, 'n event is daar om geld te maak, maar jy kan nie net geld inpomp en niks later terug. So jy moet besluit, wat se geld wil ek maak en hoe kan ek die meeste geld met die minste insetkoste? Want dit help nie, ek kry 'n miljoen rand sponsorship en ek draai aan die einde van die dag as ek die somme loop maak en daar's 'n 50.000 rand winsie. Waarmee was ek besig? Ek kan nie ouens maar die miljoen rand vir gegee het en ek het die miljoen rand uitbetaal in die gemeenskap. So waarmee is ons dan nou eintlik besig? So dis waarmee ons toe op die einde van die dag gaan sê, luister, maar kom ons maak ons event kleiner. Ons maak hom eksklusief eerder en ons kry die mense en ons gee vir daai hoeveelheid mense. Ons weet hoeveel mense daar gaan kom en ons weet hoe hulle dit laat geniet. Want daar's niks so onlekker, as ek die woord so mag gebruik, as om by 'n fees te kom en daar's die toiletgeriewe nie, of by 'n fees te kom en die ys is op, of by 'n fees te kom en jy moet 'n uur lank in 'n tou staan om 'n Coke te kan koop. En dit gebeur. En dit het gebeur met ons fees in die verlede en ek dink dis waar ons 'n bietjie geleer het daai. So my voorstel was aan ons komitee ook om sê, kom ons besluit oor hoe groot ons regtig wil gaan. En ons bou by dit en ons gee eerder vir daai mense kwaliteit tyd. En ons gee vir hulle ordentlike fees en ons weet die fees is finansiëel ook na die tyd suksesvol. So dis maar net so 'n bietjie kort oor Liefie Makiti.
Dankie, Kari. Yeah, just a side note, I told Mushfika, there's a documentary called Fire Island, the greatest party that never happened. I don't know who's seen it. If you're in events, go and watch that. It will make you feel better, but it's lots of lessons to be learned about actually just, it's great to think and dream big, but rather, start small, make sure all the steps are taken and that everything is built. But please go and watch it. It's like a thriller, a horror actually. It's what can go wrong and did go wrong. My next guest you already know. He's obviously working really hard because he's got different elements that he has to cover at this conference. So I would like to again just introduce Mr. Pedro Willifant, from Manager Economic Development at the George Municipality.
Thank you very much, Higu. Perhaps, Kali, ek moet sê, jy praat hoe Afrikaans, hoor. Again, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Some of you would think, but what has economic development's got to do with supply chain? And I'm sure most of you understand the concept of supply chain management. In our days, throughout the Western Cape, the colleagues would know, we use the word smart procurement instead of supply chain. There's a couple of Indabas, and I think the next Indaba is now in March, where we'll have the Smart Procurement World Summit, where we talk about how do we utilize procurement for local economic development within communities. Pastor Horn, u ken nog die afkorting LED, dis nie 'n politieke party nie. It stands for local economic development. So importantly for us, and why I thought it's best that we also fit into this topic, is to try to bring the message across in terms of it's important that we buy local. Whenever there's an event that's going to be staged, and I made a joke with Christo now at the back, when we came from tea to say, Christo, but from where are you for interest sake? He says, from outside. So I said, hell no. How can it be that we can't find a supplier in George to provide us with this setup here? I mean, that's just a scenario for us to think about. So whenever we spend rents and cents within a municipal space, it contributes to economic development. So for us as a department within the municipality, economic development, we're responsible for running around between departments and make sure that you spend your money smartly. A few years ago, we've appointed service providers from Cape Town, Mpumalanga, Johannesburg, all over to come and do work in George. What happens? The 50 million rand goes out of George. It's not being spent in George because the service provider is not coming from George. So that's the concept that we want to bring across. So whenever an event organizer organizes an event and you apply to us for funding, that's the parameters we're going to work with. We're going to tell you, listen, we're sitting on a database that we call the supply chain management database within the municipality. Has got listed a lot of suppliers with different commodities. So don't tell me that you should use someone from Plettenberg Bay to come and set up a tent here for you in George whenever you're staging an event. There is service providers in George that can do it for you. That service provider can appoint another 5, another 10 individuals out of the community, and the money stays in George. So basically, that's my contribution to the panel. If there's any questions, I'll greatly respond to it in terms of what it is that we as a municipality can do to support the supply chain during the event staging processes. Thank you.
Thank you. If it's all right, I'm now going to just stay right here. I'm just going to ask you a few questions. I would love to actually open up so that we've got more questions from the floor. But I do have a few things that I want to ask you. So, Kali, I know Linda kind of gave us a bit of a percentage for KAK&K and Kunst Onbeperk, about 70% local suppliers that we use. On your side, what would you say?
Ons omtrent 90%.
90%.
Ja, ons probeer so ver as moontlik local doen, want dit gaan vir ons vir ontwikkeling. So ja, ons omtrent 90% is local development.
Jy kan dit bewys.
Ja. Kan die staat gee.
Peter, en die municipality, as julle events of wat so jy sê dat ek bedoel hoe werk dit, how does it work within the municipality? I mean, obviously there's certain, and we'll get to that now, the challenges of also certain, like you just asked, like how can it be possible that there's not in George, like someone that can do the technical for you, but how many, if you do events, like what is that quote, and do you bring suppliers from outside of George in to do certain, to supply with certain aspects of the
Look,
events?
in exceptional cases, one need to understand that George is not rich in chemicals, in terms of technical, capabilities and so on. So we normally request 3 quotations. If there needs to go a purchase order out, you need to submit 3 quotations. It's then evaluated in terms of a point system within the municipality. Obviously looking at price. If an engineer tells me about, I should take the lowest quote, I normally differ with him because quality is also an important factor that you need to take into account. And you would struggle from experience to get the supplier to replace a faulty meter that came from Cape Town. And it's better that you appoint someone in George that's better approachable, the guy, so that quality assurance is already part of the process. So from our side, yeah, the first point of departure, it's a one-stop shop. There's a database within the municipality. It gives you all the commodities. It gives you the area specifics. It tells you where that supplier is from. And we can immediately, you know, the Cypro online system is open to us all. You can immediately see what's happening within that business as well.
Okay. So my next question, I already wrote that when you spoke about the database, because I'm sure there's people that's going to ask that. How do you get on that database, and is there a quality control on the database, and how does that database actually work? Because I know that, I mean, obviously different municipalities and different regions has got that.
There's different perceptions in terms of our supply chain management database, and from the floor and from experience and what we gain out of our platforms that we create in the community for economic development, is that people normally say, but you keep on using the same supplier. And then when we get back, we do a proper analysis in terms of what happened in the process. And we realize, and I think this should be something that we take home, you need to comply with the parameters of our processes. You can't expect us to appoint you if you don't have a tax clearance certificate. You understand? So you can't point finger to say, but listen, you're using Kali all the time, and why is it that you don't use Yuhu? Yuhu is defaulted on the system because he's non-compliant towards our prescribed processes, whilst Kali's documents and everything is up to date. So this is the procedures that we normally use. People can come to the municipality at the main building in York Street. There is supplier verification forms, but before you fill in that form, you should be registered on the Central Supplier Database. That's a national government database. It's an online application. I know that there is issues with regards to the registration process, but you know there is help functions and options that you can use to get registered on that database. Our offices is located in York Street. At the tourism center, myself and Joan is located in the same building, together with tourism. We've got another satellite office in Industrial Road, opposite Techie Town. So if you need any assistance with regards to registering on our database, we're open for that discussion.
Another question for you. Well, how does, and I'm also playing devil's advocate here now throughout, so don't, I want to know, so is there any help that, because it is sometimes, you know, it can be very intimidating as a small provider who might be, you know, can deliver real quality, to actually get, to go through that process, to actually fill in the forms, to understand what is needed. Is there any help? Is there any way that someone at the municipality or someone can actually take someone and help them through that process? No. Or is it just a question of, if you don't know how to do this and you do it wrongly, then you're out?
I've just to rephrase in terms of what I've indicated in my previous response, we've got offices all over the city. Within communities, there's ward committee members that represents the community within that ward. They would be able to refer you to the area office because there's area offices. So the accessibility in terms of our services, it's very close to the community. Secondly, within the Batopele principles that we need to apply as government agencies and municipalities, it specifically states then when somebody can't read or write, it's your duty as an official to assist that community member or that supplier. So there isn't a story about you can't be assisted. It's for you to take the steps. Come to us so that we can assist you.
No, and I think that's very important, that actually I think the government and the municipalities are open for people to come and ask, and it's just a question of actually asking for help, so that you can go through that, so that you do it right.
We don't want to see your books or your financial statements. It's got nothing to do with us. Yeah. What we want to do is to get you know, your business up and running and get you registered. You don't even need to provide us with your banking details or so on. You just complete the forms, we'll fill it in for you in front of you, we'll submit it. We'll go online. There is internet facilities in libraries. There's hotspots all over the city that the provincial government assisted us with. Smartphones these days are compatible with, you know, filling in forms. So there can't be an issue with regards to getting onto the database.
And then a question, Kali and Linda, you can both answer this. I want to know if you're looking at, I mean, you spoke about the process as well, the 3-year processes on this side. I don't know if you've also got not three, like a 3-quote system, and then you don't have that kind of. Oh, okay.
Ja, ons is nog te klein.
Okay.
Ja.
No, that's fine. But do you use the same providers every year for the past 5 years, or?
Kom ek stel dit so. Ons het toe ons begin het met die fees, het ons en oor as die borskappe het. Ons moes borskappe soek. So die gedagte was om eers te local te gaan. Maar wat bied jy vir die local ou? So ons moet 'n ooreenkoms met hom maak, sê luister, help ons nou, klim saam met ons nou in en ons stap die pad saam met jou verder. So dit is maar basies wat ons steeds die eerste ou wat se dag eerste ingeklim het, is die ou wat laaste gaan. Solank as wat hy bereid is om saam met ons te werk, sal ons hom ondersteun. So dit is maar die gedagte daar. Ja, daar's altyd plek vir nuwe ouens. Maar ja, so ons het nie 'n obviously is rand vir 'n rand en 'n sent vir 'n sent. Maar ons gaan eers na ons eerste ou toe terug en sê luister maar, ons kan hierdie selfde ding kry, maar jy was vandag eendag by ons, kan jy vir ons vir dieselfde hoeveelheid kan lewer. So ja, so ons kyk na ons probeer verhoudings bou en probeer die verhoudings 'n pad mee saamstap. So,
and that's very true. It is sometimes about relationships and the people. Oh, sorry. Dis ek wat se kraaks. Dis julle. Ek sal stil sit. Jammer. So it is often you invest in you know the people, you know the kind of service you get, and if you get excellent service, why would you then look for someone else? But Linda, I'm throwing that to you. We do go through a process. I mean, you go through that process of getting in every 3 years, and it's a very open and equal process of looking at new providers. If you look at the events that you're involved in, would you say that you often go for the same providers from the previous 3 years, or do you actually look at new options, and what do you look for?
So yeah, there are quite a few service providers that have come with the festival over the years, and because we're a destination festival, it is a thing of we have to bring so much into town, and we have to work with people who we can trust and rely that they will do the job well. Very often, we have to negotiate fees that perhaps another provider would not have been that happy with, so we look at that. But once someone's contract has expired, there is a completely open process, and we actually go to a lot of trouble to try and find a different supplier so that the opportunity is spread around. It's not always possible simply because of the scope of what a particular supplier needs to do, and it's maybe also something that's not available, so not that readily available throughout the country. So an example of that would be like our staging, and the raking that we do in the venues. It's been the same supplier for many years, simply because it's not something that's readily available. They have the means and the ability to bring it all in, set it up, strike it.
And it's also safety.
And safety issues, obviously, as well.
So if we look at, because obviously there's some, and I just wanted to, I think you all know this, but what's interesting to me, and just say yes or no if you agree with this, but I often, even here, you would get a quote from Cape Town of a company that will give you excellent service, that are much more affordable than a local supplier for whatever reason. And I often do you experience that with back with something? Pedro, do you ervaar julle dit?
Yeah, sometimes buyers have got negotiation powers.
Yeah.
And it's one of the failures of the transformation agenda within the economic space. Because we call it price fixing. I don't believe the guy from Cape Town is cheaper. I haven't seen the math behind his calculations or her calculations. So I don't believe in the same service provider for 10 to 15 years because he knows how. It doesn't work that way. I know that there's different parameters in terms of how we put this forward, but I think it's quite important for you as an events organizer to also apply your mind around the transformation agenda, not only at the George municipality or the Oudtshoorn municipality, but on a national level. There is issues with regards to the transformation in terms of service providers that's currently on the cards.
I can maybe just add something that what we have done over the years as well is we've also broken down what needs to be done into more manageable chunks as well, so that the opportunity can be distributed as well. So we do that as well.
That's a
To
very
accommodate,
nice option.
Yeah, I think budget and ability, I mean, budget sometimes forces you to do certain things, unfortunately. I think that sometimes rules where you need to go. But we do have a responsibility. And I do want to ask about that, let's call it skills transfer or assisting. If we're talking about specific suppliers, specific kind of needs, which is maybe something that one should kind of put out there and say, we don't have suppliers in this and this and this and this here in George and in Oudtshoorn or wherever it might be, so that people know, oh, there's actually a gap in the market in this region for that. So, but how do is there anything from the municipality side or from the festival side, is there any kind of, what would you call it, kind of a transfer of skills or a learning that, yes, we are using these outside suppliers now, but as part of the contract or whatever, there's kind of there needs to be people that are trained or skills that are transferred in that sense, so that someone can be that supplier for the events in this region. Do you have?
Yeah.
I mean, I know there's the EPWPs and there's all of that, but I'm not talking in a much more specific sense.
And I'm getting the idea that Hugo is speaking on me.
Yeah. I was specifically looking at you.
But I'm willing to share,
Yeah.
best practices. There's a program that we call Supplier Development Program. It's a Supplier Development Program, and I know that Drakenstein Municipality successfully appointed a service provider now to look at whenever the municipality, procure goods and services. It's also it's always in terms of a 3-year budget cycle. So how was it that you knew then for the next 3 years you need X, Y, Z, and this X, Y, Z normally comes from Cape Town? Why isn't it that you start in year 1 and build local suppliers till you get to year 3, so that local suppliers can respond to that demand? And that's something that we're going to instill within the municipality going forward, as our budget become available to roll out a similar program like they did in Drakenstein. And it works very well. So you build SMMEs and entrepreneurs in the disadvantaged communities to respond to the demand of the municipality as you go along. So it's not a question about there's no suppliers available. It's for us to create that environment, and that's what we're stepping up to now.
I can also just say that a couple of years ago at the festival, we, to meet that specific
demand.
need as well, or that demand, what we did is we would appoint service providers on the basis that they would be willing to train up a local service provider,
Excellent.
even if they are themselves local, part of the contract would be that they would be willing to train up someone from a disadvantaged community. And quite a few of those people now are the ones who are making use of who we use as local service providers today. So a couple of those have been quite successful, and they've been partners with the festival for a number of years too now.
Ek kan miskien Hugo, ekskuus, met aansluit daarso om sê, in ons geval was ons gelukkig een van ons partners is 'n engineering plek. En tente, speed fencing en staging is goed wat ons weet ons gaan gebruik. So hy het vir ons voorsien van dit. Maar oor dit ons teruggee in die gemeenskap, het ons die goed teruggegee na die skole toe. So met die veronderstelling, ons kry dit in daai jaar of in daai tydperk kry ons dit verniet, en deur die jaar kan hulle dit verhuur vir wat se events hulle ook al het, om 'n inkomste te dien. So dit is maar die tipe van ding wat ons probeer doen, om koop die goed aan, gee dit vir die gemeenskap, dat hulle dit gebruik, en ons het net weer die gebruikreg gedurende daai tyd. So dis maar die tipe goed wat 'n ou probeer. Dis dalk moeiliker vir feeste soos julle om al daai goed, want jy het nie noodwendig 'n plek om dit te stoor nie, en dit is maar duur, maar ja, vir die kleiner ouens wat 'n Benno tent van 20 by 20 meter is nie so duur om te koop nie, maar dis nie waarmee jy kan klaarkom nie. So ja.
Hugo, miskien van my kant af voor ons, ek weet ons moet afstap van die topic af. Ek dink vir diensverskaffers or service providers, it's important that you test the market and understand what goods and services government is going to need in the next year or 3. So that you as a small business owner can develop and transform yourself to respond to the needs of the municipality or provincial government. I'm going to make an example. We normally buy, and I could be wrong with a figure, 1 million toilet rolls a year. Toilet paper a year. It's in municipalities, in government institutions, in banks, in our homes, it's a basic commodity. You can't move without it. So why is it that we as small businesses and service providers, why is it that we allow municipalities to buy in bulk from Checkers? Why can't we produce toilet rolls locally and sell it to the municipality with a 3-year contract or a 5-year contract, or to the banks and so on? A friend of mine at Netbank just told me the other day to fix a globe in Netbank, in a branch here. They must have somebody from PE to come and fix it. So these are the things that we're experiencing on a day-to-day basis. And I think the message should be put across. There is opportunity. Don't wait for us to come to you. We're really open for business.
That's absolutely wonderful to know. I'm going to quickly just open up, and just before I open up just for general questions, I just want to, any suppliers here who's got specific, I would love to know, like, what are your challenges as suppliers? If it's a question that's kind of related to that, anyone? Yes. Moet ek sommer hierdie, daar is nog 'n mikrofoon. Daar kom 'n mikrofoon daar van agteraf, ja. Yes.
No, I'm going to ask just a small question on top of that.
Yes.
On top of your question.
It's fine.
Question is
Go ahead.
Sir, I would like to know, is it possible, like, let me say I'm a service provider for the municipality in Neisner. Let's say I supply with a sound system. Then the sound system in Neisner, when there's an event happening in my community, within my community, or they don't come and hire from me, they go to George. I'm just doing an example. Actually, it's a practical example. They come here to George and hire the system. So is it possible for me as well, maybe as an event organizer, maybe to come to George and say, the community of George, let's say young people of George, they would like me to do a particular event for them. Is the municipality of George going to be willing to provide me with funds for that while I'm not on their database?
So I think this is, let's hand that over to you to answer. Yeah.
I think it's, and I know we've touched on this question about, the colleague is from Neisner and he wants to stage an event in George. Obviously, he's going to need goods and services to produce either the festival or whatever event. The proviso for us would be that you can come from Neisner and wherever, with all your whatever. But there is service providers in George. You're going to appoint them. You're not going to take the 10 million rand back to Neisner. 30% must stay here. So
you can organize it here, but you must spend the money that you get, you must spend here.
You must spend it. You can't come with 100 people from Neisner now, whilst we're sitting here with 100 unemployed people. So that's the discussion that we'll negotiate in a situation like that.
Yes. I had a question right back there.
Thank you, sir. Where is Dr. Bauer? He probably left now, but he will know. I'm an activist for this for quite a while, referring to the sporting fraternity.
Yes.
The reason why is that I think we don't have a serious problem with supply chain management in locally with our municipalities, because we take one another's hand and we try to keep the events locally and also to spend the money locally. We have heard about social cohesion the whole day already. But why is our supply chain not also supporting what we preach in social cohesion? Why must we take this orders that we can place in our communities, which is empowering our communities also financially? Why must that go to Cape Town, to PE, even to Pretoria? And I think the real culprits here is our government, our Western Cape government. I can only talk about them. And some of them, in some cases, they are compelled by the national department to use a national supplier to supply whatever we need for our circumstances for sporting events here. The medals mostly come from Pretoria via Cape Town to George Oudtshoorn. By that time, the price has been inflated. In other words, if we have 50,000 to spend on that event, eventually we can only spend 30,000. This is one of the main reasons. The problem is that, and I just want to give you an example. We had to transport a team from this area, Eden area, to Piketberg for an athletic meeting. The transport came from Cape Town, from Kraaifontein, to pick them up. When they arrived here in Oudtshoorn, the buses was of such a state that they weren't even allowed to move out of the traffic department's area. And the reason why I say this is because we cannot have any product assurance. The people get in catering from Cape Town or let's say Cape Town. It's a once-off in many cases because they come and many of the times they're not up to standard, but they're gone. You don't see them again. So this is the real problem. And we do have the people here. The reason why they are not on the database is because it is made very difficult. If I'm correct, it's about is it a 60-page or a 40-page document that you have to fill in, submit, and everything. So let's make it easier for our local people to get onto the databases as well. And then we can actually build out social cohesion by empowering our local suppliers as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Who do we speak to make that a 2-pager and not a 60-pager? Okay.
It's not.
And the George form is 2 pages, and I can do it. So really, it's not rocket science. They have made it much easier. So people should just go and have a look, find out. It was very cumbersome. I had people in the past saying, I couldn't even be bothered filling it in. Now, we're trying to get as many people as we can on the database, because the more we can get on, the more choice we have of providers, which is what everybody wants.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Hier is miskien kan aansluit daar. Ek is ook nou so 'n bietjie plaaslike regering betrokke. Dis ook belangrik dat die diensverskaffers ook gereeld teruggaan en hulle dokumentasie gaan opdateer. Want ja, soos jy vroeër gesê het, as jy nie 'n tax certificate het nie, dan gaan hulle nie kyk na jou nie, en dit moet jaarliks hernu word. So ek dink dit is belangrik dat 'n diensverskaffer jaarliks gaan en gaan kyk, is ek nog, apply ek nog tot alles wat daar is wat ek moet, anders gaan ek nie deals kry nie.
Dit is nie ek nie, ek beloof. There was another hand right there. We still have, where's Mushfika?
2 minutes.
About 2 minutes? Yeah?
Uh,
So we've got about 2 more questions left.
Hmm?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, kick on.
Good day, everybody. My name is Alberto. I just have this one question, and I would like to refer to the gentleman from George Municipality with regards to procurement processes. As a contractor or supplier, whatever you might have called it, I've been having some difficulties in the way that that procurement is conducting the business in terms of, and I'm just going to generalize it. I'm not saying it's happening at your municipality or so, but when tenders are being submitted, most of the times they would go for the lowest tenderer instead of going or looking at your price as well as your preferential procurement point system. So they would say, for argument's sake, just say, go for the lowest bidder. Appoint him, whether the guy is actually compliant or not. They set him up for failure, and on the end of the day, they would just say, let's just blacklist the guy for the next 2 to 5 years. And to me, that is a major, major concern when the procurement policy are not being implemented correctly by some of the officials. Because like on the end of the day, like I'm saying, is that they are sending that oak for failure instead of assisting him or by calling him to say, listen, your tender is too low, we can't appoint you. We would go rather for the guy that are actually compliant, you know. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have another question? There was another
Not a
hand.
question.
Sorry, but yeah, antwoord.
It wasn't
Sorry.
a question, it was an observation from
Yes.
the gentleman.
I mean, it was an observation, yes. Do you want to respond to that at all?
No, I think it's fine.
Yeah. Another question? Okay, I have another question for you. I want to know about and that's the last question from my side. I want to know, why did that change suddenly, that timer? Anyway, I just want to know if your relationship with your suppliers, how with the suppliers and then we're talking about local sponsors as well. How closely do you work with them to secure a positive and how does that relationship work with local suppliers? Linda?
Well, I think it's any relationship that you have as an event is important. There's no, I know people often think, whoever's paying the most money is the most important, but it's not necessarily that. Every relationship is important.
Yeah.
So you have to work at all of them.
Ek dink in ons geval of nie ons geval nie, in alle gevalle is as jy kyk na sponsors, die ou wil weet wat hy graag uit gaan kry behalwe 'n goeie verhouding. Hy soek maar iets vir sy geld ook op die einde van die dag. So wat ons gedoen het weer in om te sê luister die tipe sponsorship wat jy vir ons gee, help ons jou met ander goed. Ons het opgeteam met 'n social media team. Nou Fred en daar soos ek verduidelik is 300 km die Kaap met ons ken die tegnologie, dis hoekom ek hier 'n presentasie gehad het. So die websites is alles nog goed. As jy op jou selfoon gaan, is dit so 'n groot prentjie wat jy moet inskrul. Hallo, ekskuus. Dan sit 'n groot prentjie, jy moet klein maak, jy kan nie sien wat daar aangaan nie. So ons het 'n social media event company ingekry as 'n borg vir ons fees en te sê luister maar, ek gaan vir jou 10 plaaslike besighede bring wat vir my 'n X bedrag gaan sponsor vir die fees, maar jy gaan vir hulle help met hulle social media. So dis die tipe ding en deur daai, dis 'n jaar kontrak of 'n 6 maande kontrak. In daai jaar of 6 maande het ons gereeld kommunikasie en ons kom by mekaar en ons gesels en ek dink dis hoe ons ook beter verhoudings bou en met mekaar gesels oor probleme en uitdagings en dit het vir ons gehelp.
It's again about those partnerships within that.
Yeah.
I just want to mention something that, for instance, at the KAKNK, there's a very specific, so there's a lot of food stalls and obviously, and it's, and as part of that, Linda, and you must help me with this because I wasn't part of that process directly, but I know there's specific areas which are prime areas during the festival that are specifically allocated for local suppliers, in other words. There's no stalletjies, there's no besighede, maar it's also kind of a way to stimulate all our local providers and with vetkoeke and koeksisters and it's all of that. But to give opportunities within that and then develop, and there's a link with our sponsor APSA with the entrepreneurship that goes with that.
Yeah.
So actually building a business, helping with a craft stall or a marketing. So there's a whole development in that, and I think that's maybe that's where the municipalities and the government and where everyone and the corporate sponsorships and local sponsors can work together. We haven't even spoken about the business chambers and their involvement, but that's maybe a conversation for another date. Time's up, it says there. So thank you very much to the panel.